GamerSCG here. In this video, I'm super proud to show you guys a custom crafting system that my friend James and I came up with. We've been working really hard on this, and it's specifically designed for multiplayer scenarios, so it's perfect for realms and servers. So let's check this thing out. So this system is actually not triggered with a dropped item like many systems on Bedrock are. This system is actually triggered no matter where you are by looking up for a certain duration and then looking down for a certain duration immediately thereafter. But you have to do it quick enough. So you'll notice when I look straight up, you'll hear a bell sound, which indicates that I can now look down to trigger the system. Alright, perfect. It works flawlessly, and now I get my set crafter item. So I can go ahead and place my custom crafter. And at this distance, it's actually currently disabled. But once I approach it, it enables, and we get all these really cool particle effects. While I'm using it, we always have these magical particle effects flowing into it. So here I'm going to show you some example recipes that we came up with. You can come up with any recipes you want, and they can be as OP or balanced as you choose. Couple more. Again, this is very scalable and limitless in what you can do with it. This can be pretty amazing. And the last one. Okay, so those are the examples that we came up with. You can use those, you can come up with your own. And that's the whole point of the system, after all, is being able to craft anywhere you are these special, unique items that you come up with your own recipes. And of course, this works in all versions of Bedrock, so on all platforms, of course. So Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, all of them, mobile, and of course PC. And like I said, this is specifically designed for multiplayer settings. So how is the system specifically designed for multiplayer? Well, let's take a quick look at that. So when I place a system, obviously it deactivates when I'm not near it, and a lot of the system actually unpowers when that happens. You'll see as I approach it, the system will power in various places, and when I leave it, the system will unpower. So that's important. When you break this item right here, you actually get back, as you've seen, you get back the set crafter item, so you can place it again. Of course, at any point in time, you could trigger the system again by looking up and then down to get another custom crafter. And there we go, we have a second one. So what's important, this system is very smart in how it's able to detect which player is using which crafting table. So in this case, if I approach this crafting table, you'll see particles appear here, but they won't appear at that one. See that? So they only appeared at the one that I'm interacting with, not the other one. So that was also a very important distinction in the code. We wanted to make sure that was correct. So another thing that is important specifically for multiplayer is that this system is smart enough to be able to detect which custom crafter that's being used has the correct recipe and will send the correct result to the correct crafter at all times. So if multiple players are using the system, like one player is using it over there and I'm using it over here, then I will never get the result for his recipe, and he will never get the result for my recipe. And that's actually very difficult to do on Bedrock and multiplayer. It's very hard to make advanced multiplayer systems. It takes a lot of time and effort to do that, because it's actually very easy to make systems that just don't work well. It would be very easy, for example, to make the system where when I put in this recipe here, and when I finish it, it's very easy to make a system so that this result, so this totem of dying, would appear in all of them. But this system is very smart, and that's not going to be the case. Of course, if I go in here and check, you'll see there's nothing in here. That's not, yeah, so it's specifically designed for multiplayer. And what's cool is you can actually leave these custom crafter tables in your house or your base or whatever. You can leave them all set up, and they will work forever, and they'll be just fine. There is, yeah, so basically it's cool. Like this you can just keep that there and use it whenever you want, or you can just be out and about and you can summon one to you like this, and you can use it, do your thing, and then you can just take it with you when you're done with it. So that's really cool. Super proud of how this works. And so the way this is working, you're probably wondering, the totem of undying was in here, that's why that dropped. So the way this works is, so it's based on a principle that James came up with. So basically, James came up with the idea of using an invisible Endermite that we use basically we use that Endermite to do all of our player tracking and targeting. So when you actually place this set crafter and you get this crafting table, the Endermite is forced underground, right underneath this crafting table. So the Endermite is actually in the dirt block, the grass block right below here. So technically speaking, this system should work flawlessly forever if the Endermite never has a place to get out, right? But if you were to break this block, eventually the Endermite will be able to wiggle his way out. And then when that happens, this custom crafter will break, and you'll know that because when you approach it, nothing will happen. There'll be no particles. You can see right there, he's trying to get out. Look at him. Look at him. He's wiggling his way out. And as soon as he gets out, he's going to die. Watch. Yep, he died. So that's important that you see that. So you know when that happens, yep, that's intentional. That's how it works. So now that it's broken, you'll see when I approach it, nothing happens. Not a problem because we can just break it, and we have a brand new one. We can place it again, and that's great. And as you can see, it works flawlessly. But that should never happen unless you have a hole on the direct, like right here, on either facing of the crafting table. That's the only time that should happen. But otherwise, that's a very small downside because, again, it's not really a downside because it's not like you can't just draw, pick up that item and then replace it right away anyway. So, okay. So that's basically this whole system is based around the concept of detecting events based on that small Endermite that's underneath the dropper. So that was James's idea, and my idea, one of my core ideas in the system, was how we trigger the whole thing. So being able to look up and then down, and I'm going to eventually have a system where I look down and then up that will be coming out in the future. So those are some of our big contributions. Once James brought this idea to me, and we started going over it together, I helped push it further and kind of iron some things out. And then, I'll show you the rest. So let's get into the coding. So I'm going to go as fast as I can. Please note that you're going to have to pause. It's important that you make sure that you get all the block settings correct. So just as an example, you need to make sure you get the block type correct, the condition correct, has to be the same. The redstone has to be correct, and if there's a delay. And I'll tell you if there's a delay. So make sure you get all those correct, and of course all the code in the block, and you'll be good to go. Don't be daunted. This is a big system, but I'm going to go over the whole thing with you. I'm not going to go over every single code and explain exactly what's happening, but I'm going to give you the Spark Notes rundown, the shorthand of what's happening. And this also does not have to be built just like this. It can be built much more compressed and pushed together. You can put this in a single chunk, and just even if it's multiple layers tall, you can easily do that. And these towers, you can lay them on their side. There's all different ways you can arrange this, especially if you understand how command blocks work. Yeah, this can definitely be condensed a lot, but this is easier laying it out like this. Is very organized and easy to show you guys. So that's why I did it like this. So first we're going to look at these commands. Now these are the scoreboards that govern the system. There's 4 different scoreboards, and these are commands that you don't need to have in a command block. They can actually just be entered directly into chat. But here, I'll show you these now. So this scoreboard, check might, will be used later in the system to check might. So we can make sure, basically we can check one might later on in the system. So we can check one might against all the others to make sure that it has the right recipe or not. This scoreboard custom craft is used to detect when a player looks up and then down for long enough to trigger the system. This CC particle is our custom crafted particle, and this is going to determine when a player should get particles and when they shouldn't get particles. And this craft timer is the window in which the timer resets, and I'll show you that now. So I'm going to display the scoreboard that is called custom craft, and this is the scoreboard again that's responsible for looking up and looking down. And like I said, this last scoreboard here is the reset timer. So it's going to reset the duration that we have when we look up. If we don't do it fast enough, it will reset. So see how it just reset? So we have a certain window of time. We actually have 3.5 seconds to input this correctly, where from when we do this and onward. And if we don't input it correctly, it will just reset. So the reason we did that is so that it has to be very intentional. The input has to be very intentional to trigger. You're not going to accidentally trigger it just by playing the game normally. That's very important. You want these systems to be designed smartly, where you you want them to be designed intelligently enough to not be triggered when you don't want them to be triggered, right? So you want it to be triggered at the right times. So this will only be triggered when you intentionally look up and then look down quick enough to trigger it. And that's how that works. So yeah, and you can actually change that window and make it larger or shorter if you want to, the reset window. And the reset window, we've already fine-tuned it to what felt good on console, because you might have a lower sensitivity on console. It might be hard to look up and down quick. But this value felt good for even console players. But you can adjust it if you need to. So those are those commands. And you don't need to actually have that scoreboard on screen like I do right now, that this display. But if you do want to have the display on the screen while you're testing, this is the command right here. So just enter that, and that will put that display on screen for when you're testing. Also, you'll need to make sure you add yourself to these scoreboards in order for the system to work when you're testing it. So you would need to enter this into chat for the particle system. And then you also need to enter this into chat. But also, you will need these somewhere in your world, just like this, so that later on, any player who joins the game will then automatically be added to these scoreboards with the score of 0, so the system can use them with the scoreboard. So basically, if you have a remove offline player system, this will look very familiar to you. In which case, if you do have one of those systems, you can just take these two blocks and then put them as chain unconditional always active, and then place them on the same end that this is on, like on the end that the observer is pointing into with the power. So yeah, but if you don't have one of those systems, this is how you do that. So repeat unconditional always active, test for A at A, and then a comparator, a redstone dust, observer looking at the dust, pointing into this impulse, unconditional needs redstone block, and then here's the code again, and here's the code again. Chain unconditional always active, here's the second code. So what this will do is every single time a new player joins or leaves the game, it will run this code right here. So it will make sure all players in the game, whenever they join, they are added to the scoreboard so that they're able to use the system the right way. Okay, that's how that works. So now that you are added to the scoreboard, by the way, if you just built this, and depending on how you build this, you might want to break this and replace it to make sure you're definitely added. That will make sure you're certainly added. If once this is built like this, you can just break this and replace it, and you'll definitely be added if you're in the game. So yeah, okay. So now let's look over this. I'm going to go as fast as possible because I don't want this video to be just too long. I don't want to bore people to tears. So I have little notes here. The system right here that we're looking at is the one responsible for counting when you look up and down. So let's take a look at this. So I'm not going to say repeat unconditional always active. Just pay attention. This is the last time I'm going to note this, okay? There are going to be plenty of times in the system where one chain block will be conditional and another one will be unconditional. And that's intentional, and it has to be that way. If you mess that up, then the system will not work for you, and it will mess up in some way. So you don't want to do that. So, okay, so here's the command. Copy this exactly how you see it, and to copy all the commands exactly how you see it. I'll tell you if there's any wiggle room, but just copy this exactly how you see it. Now, this command is actually optional. This is that bell sound when you look up. The reason this is the only optional commands in the system is because, as you can see, when I look up for 20 ticks and I get that bell sound, that indicates that I can then look down. But if I decide I don't want to be looking down, it's going to keep on doing it. It's going to reset and then count up to 20 and reset. So the way it's currently configured, I have to look up for a full second, and a full second is 20 ticks. A full second in real life is 20 ticks in game. So I look up for a full tick, which is a full 20. Oh my god! I look up for a full 20 ticks, which is a full second, and then when I look down for a full second, which is another 20 ticks, that gets to 40. So once you get to a count of 40, then you get the item. Yeah, so that's how that works. Okay. So the reason, you might want to get rid of that sound because you might not want this to always happen. And once you learn the timing for this, it's actually pretty easy to do the timing without the sound. It just gets more. You get used to the input. But that's up to you, and you can also change it to a different sound that's like a little bit like softer and not as annoying, especially if it's going to spam over and over. Or you can try changing the pitch of the bell sound. So watch, if I put like 3 in here, it's gonna be much more higher pitch, but like quiet. Hear that? It's like kind of hard to hear. So you could also do that if you want to. So anyway, this is an optional block. You can take this out if you want, if you don't want that notification sound when you look up. And you can still trigger the system all the same. Now let's look at the next block. Copy this exactly as you see it. Okay, and then copy this block exactly as you see it. And this plays that bell sound again once you reach a score of 40. Okay, so that's explained. Now this system is the reset system for if you don't look up and down quick enough. So let's check that out. So repeat unconditional always active, no text to delay. So this is the one variable that you can change if you want to. This is the length of time that you have before the timer resets once the timer is activated. So basically, again, this is 1 second in real life is 20 in-game ticks. So 3 seconds is 60 ticks, right? So this is 3.5 seconds because it's 70 ticks. So if you wanted to do 4 seconds, you could do 80 ticks. So you can choose whatever you want. Obviously, 80 ticks would be a larger window, so you have more time to get that to look up and down to trigger the system. So if you want to increase it to whatever you want, you can make the time the window much larger, especially if you're having a harder time on console for whatever reason. Even though we did test this for console, that's up to you. You can change it to 100 if you want. It's entirely up to you. So you can change that. And then, of course, pay attention to all that stuff. And then here, enter this code exactly. And then finally, this is the reset condition. So again, this is chain unconditional always active. So basically what this is saying is if the player looked up and down and their score by the end of the check, if the score is under 39, if it's 39 or under, then reset their look up, look down score to 0. Oh, I have to delete this. So yeah, that was accidentally, I just added that now. So the reason we do that is once they get to 40, if they do get to 40, which is the level the max level they want to get to trigger the system, then they are excluded and they will stay at 40. That way, if tons of players somehow miraculously all in the same game tick reach level count to 40, which is incredibly unlikely, but even if that did happen, the system is smart enough to then basically handle each player one at a time in a line, and will give all of them the item one after another. So they will all be taken care of and nobody will be left out. So they'll all be accounted for. Again, another measure of how the system is perfect for multiplayer. So now this system right here is a system that gives the item to that player with the score of 40. So once you've looked up and looked down for long enough, this is a system that gives the player that egg item. So repeat unconditional always active, no ticks of delay. Enter this command. Again, this is looking for a random player with the score of 40. It's going to give them a tag, a temporary tag, that this system is going to run off of looking for. And once this is done, it will take off that tag and it will grab the next player who has reached 40. So it will always correctly get the next player, and it will handle all the players without any problem. So very smartly, very intelligently designed. Chain conditional is active, and copy this exactly as you see it. This location right here that we're destroying, that's this chest above it. So this chest above it, we need to make this set crafter item here. So what we do, that's an Endermite egg that's been renamed. So just type in Ender, and you'll see Endermite, spawn Endermite, grab that, and go over to an anvil, and you're going to rename it to set crafter. You want to make sure it's exactly typed correctly, same capitalization, same everything. And also later on in the system, you'll see we're going to use a dropper, and we're going to rename that too. That's going to become custom crafter, just like that. So these two items we're going to need to rename for the system and then put them in a chest and clone the chest. So here you see I already put the set crafter in there, and that's what these are. So again, to continue where we left off, this command will then break this block. This command right here, these are all going to be chain conditional, but just pay attention because one at the end might be different, but just watch. So here we're going to get rid of kill the chest that drops as an item. Here we're going to teleport the item to the player, who again has a score of 40. So now they got the egg. Now we're going to reset that player's score because they've been serviced now. They have their request has been fulfilled. So now we can, they got their item, we can set their score back to 0. Now we're going to play sounds at that player so that, they get the positive reinforcement and they feel all good about using the system. So here's the sound. And again, chain conditional always active. Now we're going to remove the tag. You can see the whole command right there, but here it is just to make it easier for you. And now we're going to clone the chest back. Again, this is conditional. So we're going to clone the chest back. So just enter this command. This is the location right above the command block. And this coordinate right here is that chest right there. Okay? Perfect. So that's how we get the item to the player. And now this is where that custom crafter comes in handy. I told you rename that. So now place this facing straight up like this, just like that. It has to be facing straight up. So do it just like that. And now this system will handle what happens when you actually place the egg. So when you click on the ground and you place that egg, you're actually placing an Endermite that is actually named set crafter. Because whatever you name an egg is what the mob becomes named when it gets placed and spawned. So this system is going to handle what happens when the Endermite named set crafter enters the game. So let's check this out. So repeat unconditional always active, no ticks of delay. And enter this code exactly as you see it. For the clone location here, you're going to use the location that you put the custom crafter. So take the exact XYZ of this block and plug it into here twice. So the same XYZ twice, and then leave this just like this. And that's perfect. Now, again, chain conditional for this one, always active. Enter this exactly as you see it. Exactly. Can't stress that enough. If anything's wrong, it's not going to work. Now, this sound that we're playing here is basically a thud sound. That noise right there. It just sounds cool and impactful. It sounds like perfect for when you place this powerful custom crafting system. So that's that sound. Again, here's the code. And then we're going to kill the first mite. So there initially is a mite that again is named set crafter, but we actually spawn a new mite in to replace that set crafter mite. So we got to kill that mite now. Okay, so and this one's unconditional. Technically it can be conditional, but just leave it. It's fine unconditional. Okay, so right behind here, what we have is we have a particle system. So throughout this build, you will notice there are places where there's a wool block with just an air above it. That represents a location that a redstone block will eventually appear, because some parts of the system will power and unpower as the system is being interacted with. So the particle system. The middle command is this detect player block. Repeat unconditional needs redstone. And here's the command. Just copy this exactly as you see it. And this command right here, this is the constant particle that appears at the crafting table. So repeat unconditional needs redstone, no ticks of delay, and enter this exact command. And this is the constant particle. And what this looks like is it's the magic particle right here that's constantly flowing into this custom crafting table. Now, okay, so right here, you'll see this particle 1, particle 2, particle 3. That is these particles that appear when I first approach it. Watch. All this stuff that flies away and all that stuff that happens instantly and then dissipates, that stuff is all right here, 1, 2, and 3. That's what that is. Okay. So, yes, now that you've seen this particle, that's a constant one, we're going to go over here. So once a player is detected, this comparator will power, which will power this. So, impulse unconditional needs redstone, no ticks of delay. Just enter this exactly as you see it. This is the first particle effect. And now this is the next particle effect. Chain unconditional always active. Okay, and then this is the final and third particle effect. Chain unconditional always active. These all have to be unconditional. Particle command blocks are bugged in Minecraft Bedrock where they can't detect when they've run successfully. So if again, here's the command. Make sure you get this all right. So if you're seeing this fail to execute as whatever, just know that it's always going to say that. Okay, it's always going to say that no matter what. Even if it's actually successfully executing right now, it's going to say it's failing. So because of that, we have to be very careful with how we use particles in the game. particle command blocks, and they always have to be unconditional, and they always have to be, especially if they will always mess up conditional command blocks afterwards. So if there was a conditional afterwards, it will never be able to run because it doesn't know these guys executed. So you have to be able to know how to use them properly. So this last block here is chain unconditional again, and enter this exactly. So what this is doing is basically it's looking for these particles all look for a player with a particle score of 0, and they all play at that player. But at the end of when all these particles are finished running at that player, they add 1 to that particle score, and then they're not able to target that player again because they're targeting a player with a score of 0. So they can't target that player again. So until that player leaves the crafting table and comes back. So that's important. Okay, now let's go back around to the front. Right here, we're actually making good time with this. So this tower right here deals with the mite. So here, we're going to disable the mite. Repeat unconditional, always active. And we're going to basically lock down the mite by teleporting it in place. And even though we're teleporting it in place, like I said, if you destroy the sides right here, because it's stuck inside a block, the game is trying to force it out of the block because it's stuck inside a block and it shouldn't really be there. So the game is trying to correct its location by pushing it outside of where it's stuck. But again, because of where it is, because it's all locked in on all sides, it should never get out in normal gameplay, because the game is not going to push it out to the side if it knows that it's not going to be able to be freed over there either. So it's just going to stay in the middle. So that should never really be a problem. And if it is, you can just break it and replace it. Okay, so that is that. And yes, so that's disabling the mite, teleporting it in place. It definitely helps it from keeps it in there a lot longer. Chain unconditional, always active. We're going to make that mite invisible. You can see the mite wasn't invisible for me. I don't know why. Sometimes it glitches for me and it's not invisible when it pops out. But I don't know why. Other players, when I was testing this, it was invisible for them, so I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, just a bug, I guess, literally, with the Endermite. Check mite. So chain unconditional. Enter the command as you see it. Now we're going to apply slowness, and truth be told, I think this is actually kind of pointless, and you could probably do without this, but it makes me feel a little bit better to know that slowness is also being applied to the Endermite. So that way we can make sure that, I don't know, it just makes me feel better because technically this is making it so that Endermite can't move. And I like to think that this is helping in some way. It just eases my conscience. It just makes me feel better about the system. Chain unconditional for this one. And this is going to be killing the mite. So basically, anytime that it detects that the crafting table has been destroyed, it will immediately kill the mite. So the second I kill the crafting table, I destroy the crafting table, the mite dies. That's important. Okay, so behind the system here, we have a stop mite sounds. So this is a tower, like a chain right here that deals with stopping all the sounds that mites make. And sometimes you'll hear a little hiss or a little noise. That's because it's just how the stop sound command works. Sometimes little fragments of the sound will get through, so listen closely. You hear tss, tss. Yeah, that's just we can't really stop that in Bedrock, but that's part of the Endermite sound coming through, but then being canceled. That's just how it is, and I don't think it's a big deal. But anyway, so this system is unpowered and powered separately, and I'll show you that right here. But here's the commands. So repeat unconditional needs redstone. Just copy this all verbatim, of course. These are all chain unconditional, always active. Technically, I revamped the system a little bit, and this R equals 20 doesn't even matter anymore, but it's also not going to hurt the code either, so you can leave it in there. It doesn't matter. Now, this sound will actually stop the Endermite killing sound, like when you kill an Endermite at all Endermites in the game. And it's just we had to do it this way. Otherwise, every time you break the system, like every time you go like this to break the custom crafter, you would hear the Endermite actually die because of the limitations of the code. just the game. Like we can't do a whole lot about it. So, yep, that's just I don't know. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with not hearing the death sounds of Endermites because I never deal with Endermites. But if that's a problem for you, you can just leave this code out or whatever. Okay, so that's that. And here's the next command. Just enter this all as you see it. Okay. Okay, so now the reason this one down here is requires redstone is we want to be able to disable as much of the system as we can, so we can keep the system running efficiently on realms and servers. We don't need to have excess stuff running, and it's nice to limit as much of that as we can. So this is a little system just for that. So I went ahead and tested exactly how far away you need to be from a mob in order to stop hearing them. So this system knows the exact distance you need to be from the Endermite before you can hear them. So as soon as you're close enough to them where you can hear them, which is 16 blocks, then this code will be powered. So when you're not close enough to hear them, this system will never be powered. So you'll never be wasting all of these command blocks always running for no reason. So basically, if this was always active, these would be running at all times, even when the player wouldn't hear them anyway. But the way it's set up, these command blocks are all idly waiting and not doing anything. They're all deactivated, and the only one command block that's running is this one right here. Repeat unconditional, always active. And here's the command. We're testing for anyone within 16 blocks of an Endermite. And only if that's true, so that's the only command that's running. Only when that becomes true does it enable this system, and then these ones will start running as well. And then, so chain conditional always active. This has to be conditional, of course. We're going to set a location to redstone block, and that, of course, is right here. So we're going to set a redstone block right here, and we're going to power this. If a player is not within 16 blocks of an Endermite, then this will invert. So this will become powered all of a sudden. As you can see, I'll show you right here. So I'm within 16 blocks right now of this Ender. There's an Endermite right underneath here again. Remember that. So this is detecting that I am within 16 blocks of an Endermite. So this is powered and this is disabled. But if I leave and I move 16 blocks away, it'll depower. So now I'm 16 blocks away. That redstone torch lit. Watch again. I'll go closer. It will disable. So like this powered and this redstone torch disabled. But if I back up, that will re-enable again and remove the power. So, and I still never hear the Endermite. And of course, that's because it only activates when I'm close enough where I would hear it, and it cancels the sounds anyway. So here, you can point it to random block, redstone torch, and then enter this command. And again, the location is right here. And I'll turn it to air when you're not close enough, and it'll unpower that system. So that's that. Now, this right here, this small system right here, is what happens when it detects that this custom crafter has been dropped as an item. So if you go ahead and break this, if I switch my game mode back to survival, oops, oh my god. So if I switch it back to survival and go like this, you'll see that I get my custom crafter back. And that is actually this system. And you can see that if I go like this. Watch, really, on the top of here, you'll see a bunch of particles appear all of a sudden, really quickly. Watch. Perfect. So that was actually the chest duplicating back into place in a single game tick as fast as the game can function, and it gave me the item instantly. So that's working as intended. Let's check out the code for that. So repeat unconditional, always active, no text of delay. Enter this code exactly. This location right here that we're destroying is the chest above. So enter whatever the coordinates are for that chest. And again, this is the same exact item as before. We're putting a set crafter egg inside a chest. And then in both these chests, and it will clone back to the beginning once the command is done. So the next command, chain conditional again, is kill the chest, because we're going to kill that. This chest dropped as an item and we need to destroy it. This next one is chain conditional, and we're going to teleport the egg to the dropper. Okay, so that's what that is. Egg to the dropper. And now we're going to kill the custom crafter, which is, of course, the dropper that was renamed. So, because we're not going to pick that up as an item, we need the egg to start the whole system. So we kill that. And now we clone this location above back to the very beginning of the chain, which is right there. So plug in the coordinates for that, and make sure again that the set crafter item is in this. And that way you get that crafting item. Now we're actually almost done. Let's finish this up strong. So this powers this system right here powers and unpowers parts of the system when it's being used. So here's the code. Repeat unconditional, always active. And basically, if there's a player within 4 blocks of the system will activate. Okay. Do you know what technically speaking, we would want it to be like this because we want to execute from one place above the Endermite, which would be the actual block itself. So the actual block. It really didn't make a big difference before, but this makes it even that much more accurate. Okay, so enter this command exactly how you see it. And now these locations, these 3 blocks or these codes are all the same. They're just setting a different. They're all chain conditional, always active. They're all setting a different location to a redstone block. All the same exact code, just different location. So these locations are right here. These 2 will be set to redstone blocks. And then our particle system over here is the 3rd one. So that's those locations. Okay. So enable checks is this one right here. So get coordinates for this one. And then enable player check is this system right here. And then enable particles is the system over there that I showed you already. That's over there. So that once you've done that, now we can move on to the inverse of that. So when a player is not detected within 4 blocks of the Endermite, or in 4 blocks of that custom crafting table, now we can invert the signal and then power this set of commands that will now remove those redstone blocks and turn it back to air. So impulse unconditional needs redstone, enter location, air. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the order. Just go ahead and all these locations you just plugged in, and the particle system over there. Just copy those blocks, place the exact same code, and then change the redstone bit to air instead. Air, and then of course air. So that's that. Okay, so now this system right here, I have my little note on this side. This is the system that tags and untags players who are close enough to be using the system or not using the system. So let's check it out. And again, make sure you pay very close attention to the shifting of when one command is conditional and one is unconditional, because it matters when they are. They have to be perfectly correct. Okay. Repeat unconditional needs redstone. Here's the message that a player gets when they approach and activate one of the systems. And it doesn't have to be in green. It can be on any color you want or no color at all. And if you don't know how to do color text, just Google Minecraft color text. Now we have the sound, chain conditional. Here's the sound. And that sound, by the way, is this sound. Ready? Watch. That's that sound. I think that might be the Xbox achievement sound, but I'm not really sure. I don't play Xbox. I don't play console. So yeah, that was this. Okay. And now we're going to tag the player, chain conditional. And now we're going to basically give a disable message to the player when they leave the custom crafting table. So chain unconditional, always active. Custom crafting deactivated. Now chain conditional, we're going to untag the player. So enter this command exactly as you see it. As always, that's going to be redundant at this point, me saying that, but you got to make sure you're copying the stuff the right way. And copy that the right way. So this also will reset their particle score when they leave. So when I approach this, right now I have a particle score of 0. So when I approach it, it can play the particles to me and it will set my score to 1. So now when I leave, it will set my score back to 0. Now it's already back to 0. When I reapproach, I get the particles all over again. So that's what that's doing. Okay, so now we're on to the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Is that what they say? I don't know. But anyway, so this is basically the system that is what you've all been waiting for. This is the custom crafting element of the whole system. So it's going to check the location of each Endermite individually, one at a time, and it's going to check the custom crafter above it, and it's going to check to see if at any point the custom crafter matches the recipes that you put in. So you can put any recipes you want, and then the results are on the other side over here. So this corresponds to this, right? So that's where you put the results. And you can have as many of these or as few of these as you want, and I'll show you how you can even curve this and have this go around a corner if you need to, if you're running out of space or something. But anyway, here's the command for that. So Repeat unconditional needs redstone. This is 5 ticks of delay. It has to be 5 ticks of delay or you're going to be running into some serious issues. So definitely 5 ticks of delay. Do not forget that. There are some ticks of delay in this part of the system, and I'll go over all of them. Copy this code exactly as you see it here. And basically, what it's going to do is once a player is close enough to be using one of the custom crafting tables, then the system will begin checking that exact crafting table. So you can see it's actually going to apply a temporary tag to the Endermite and then check the contents of this custom crafting table. And only one Endermite can have this tag at a time. So what it's going to do is it's going to check that Endermite, and then it's going to run through and check each one of these, and it's going to be like, does it match any of these in here? Any of the recipes matching? And whether or not any of them match, when it gets to the end, it will then mark that Endermite with a score that says, oh, this Endermite has already been checked. Don't check that Endermite again until all of the rest of the active custom crafting systems have been checked. So basically, if like a couple people were using the systems, there was like one over here that was being used at the same time, it will check this one and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, back and forth over and over, making sure that each recipe is fulfilled correctly, which is again the brains of this whole system, and that's super important, and that's why the system works correctly, because of that mechanic right there, that system. And this is one of the systems that I contributed to the system that was very, very important to making it work properly and intelligently in a multiplayer setting. So you can see right here, the reason this is cycling is because, well, I'm the only one using the system, so it's cycling very quickly. So it's saying, oh wait, all of them are already checked, so we have to reset the score and check again. So it's assigning a tag and it's saying, okay, let's check, and it's saying, oh, we already checked all of the ones that are being used, so let's reset the score and check again. I hope you understand that that's what's happening. Okay, so let's go over the rest of the code. So what this is doing is it's pointing to a random block, redstone torch on it, and then here's the command: repeat unconditional needs redstone. And again, this will set basically when it no longer can find a new custom crafter that has not been checked out of all the ones that are currently in use. Then it will reset the score back to 0, so then all of them can be checked again in case new recipes have been put in place. And there's no tick delay in this. Okay, so here is our first check recipe block. All of these check recipe blocks are all going to be unconditional, always active chain blocks, okay? And then the block that immediately follows them is a conditional set redstone block to over this in this location to power each respective location. And the way this works is because these are unconditional, they will all run no matter what, and they may not execute successfully, but they'll try to run. And then it will get to the very end and it will do its thing. But the only time any of these will be powered will be when one of these matches. Like if this is the recipe you put in and it matches, then this will give off a successful execution, which means this conditional set redstone block command will then be able to run and then power that respective clone command to clone the result back into the correct location. Hopefully that makes sense, but again, important that you get the fact that all of these set block commands are all conditional. So this very first check recipe is the only one that has a 2-tick delay in this whole chain. Okay, so this check recipe has its chain unconditional always active with a 2-tick delay. The rest of the check recipe ones don't have any ticks of delay. So here you're going to enter this exactly, and for the coordinates you're going to put the coordinates right above. So get the coordinates of this custom crafter above and plug it in. And again, these all have to be the custom crafter. You have to make sure they're the exact same custom crafter that we use at the beginning. They can't be a regular dropper. They have to be custom crafter facing straight up, just like this. Okay? And then, again, chain conditional always active. And then we're going to set a redstone block to power the result portion. So that is going to be over here. The redstone block appears right above all these purple blocks right here, all these repeating blocks. And the repeating block is repeat unconditional, needs redstone. And basically, as soon as any of these repeating blocks gets powered, there's no ticks of delay. As soon as it gets powered, it's going to immediately turn the block above it to air and delete that redstone block. But that redstone block already had time to power this upper system. And this upper system is impulse unconditional needs redstone, and it's going to clone the block above to the proper Endermite. So to the proper custom crafter table. So it will clone this over to the correct place. And then after it does that, it will play an anvil sound at everything. And this anvil sound, I actually named these wrong. I didn't do that. Oops. Okay. Yeah, so that's the anvil sound. You can just move that across all of them. It's the same exact command. Chain unconditional always active, and then here's the sound. So that's an anvil sound that plays when you actually successfully enter a recipe that then gets sent to you. The result gets sent to you. Okay, so these are all the same. So I'll show you one more. Again, the rest of the check recipes, chain unconditional always active, they have the rest of them from this point on have 0. So the only one that has a 2-tick delay is the very first one. The rest have a delay of 0. Okay? So make sure you get that right, or you're going to run into some issues. And then all of these ones are chain conditional. So now that you get that, and all these are same, and all these correspond to their neighbor right across. That's again the same. All you're going to do for all these check recipes is just plug in the coordinates of the block above into the command, and then same over here. You're going to plug in the coordinates of this clone command from this location. So plug in the coordinates of this block into that command. Same with all of them. So that's the same for all of them. And then lastly, at the end here, after the last block, you have the final power block if this one executed properly. So this is, again, because it's powering, you want it to be conditional again, obviously. And of course, this location corresponds to that spot. These two are very, very, very important. And you have to get this right. So chain unconditional, always active. This has to be unconditional. You need 3 ticks of delay. Do not mess that up. You need 3 ticks of delay. And here's the command. So this command, after it checks whether or not it found a match in any of them, say you didn't have the right recipe or you didn't put a recipe in yet, if it didn't match anything yet, it will give that mite a check score of 1, which means that it's been checked and it had no matches, and now it tells the system go on and check a different custom crafting table that's being used by other players and see if there's a match at that one. And then once all of those systems that are being used by players have been checked, then it will go back to the beginning and reset and start checking all over again. So that's how that works. And now, chain unconditional always active, we're going to remove that checkmite tag from the temporary checkmite tag from that mite, so we can go on and check the rest of the mites in the system. So the rest of the custom crafters. So if you want to curve this system, you can actually do that, and this is how you do it. So conditional blocks cannot be turned. So a conditional block cannot point into another conditional block. It does not work this way. This block right here, a conditional means the block behind it, literally behind it, has to run successfully in order for this one to work. And if there's nothing behind it, it will not work. But what we can do here is this check recipe block, all these check recipe blocks are unconditional, so we can go like this. So we can curve it right here, and I'll copy this and place this right here. So you can see if we wanted to curve it, here's a power one, and then we can take another check recipe one. We'll go like this, and we'll take another check recipe one and put it right here. So this is a way that you could curve it if you wanted to. So if you wanted to curve it around a bend, you could very easily do that. And again, I'll just very quickly, just to finish off the shape, I can even curve it again if I chose to. Again, the ones that curve, the ones that like all of a sudden turn at an angle have to be unconditional. The conditional ones can point into them just fine, but the one that actually turns needs to be unconditional in order to run properly. And now we can set the power. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully you understand this concept, but that's how you could turn this if you want to. And obviously what you would do here is you would just follow it. These can be facing any direction, that it can be facing up, down, it doesn't matter. So here you would just place them. And again, you can pick and choose. This is a corner one, so this can be either here or here, wherever you want it to be, it doesn't matter. Choose which spot, but you only need one obviously for that one. But that's how you would do that. So if you were tight on space, you could easily have a curve any which way you want whenever you needed to, and that's what you would do. Okay. So we can get rid of that. Okay, guys. So I believe that's everything. That's the whole system. So again, James and I spent a lot of time working on this and making sure it would be flawless for a multiplayer environment. We tried to make sure that as much of the system as possible is unpowered when it's not needed and not in use. So a good portion of the system does disable, which is very important, obviously. And again, the system is, I believe, the best, most comprehensive custom crafting system for multiplayer servers and realms on Bedrock. And yeah, so thank you guys for your time. I hope you enjoyed this system. Let me know if you're using it. Again, please like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that stuff. And thank you for your time and have a nice day, guys.